Hi, everybody. Steve Tarter, another edition of Tarter Sauce here at the spacious Peoria Journal-Star. I used to say palatial, but I'm changing. But with me, two guests. Happy to have them here. Peoria County Sheriff Brian Asbell, welcome.
Thank you.
And the Director of Helping Hand Resource Center, Ron Valle. Back again, Ron.
Thank you.
Thanks for returning here.
It's always good to be here.
Well, good to have both of you here. We're talking about, I think, a subject that's vitally important, and you were sharing some of the statistics from the area here. Repeat offenders, people that have had a problem before committing. I'll ask you, Sheriff. They tend to be. You see more of them than you do first-time offenders.
Recidivism. It's in my career, and I started working in the jail, and that's where you put a face to the names and the numbers. And back in '95 when I started, and up through about 2010, I mean, we were booking between 14 and 17,000 people a year. Not many new bookings. These were the same people coming in time and time and time again. So it's a drain on not just the resources at the sheriff's office, but it's a drain on the court systems, probation, and all the linkages, the other programs and services and agencies related to the criminal justice system. So it is a problem that we have identified, but it's also a problem we've been working on.
And Ron, you see it from your side. You try, the Helping Hand Resource Center is designed to find jobs, kind of get people reacclimated to society.
We focus on both the reoffenders and the first-timers. I think I shared a couple of stats with you earlier. You know, just in the month of July, there were over 500 arrests made in Peoria County, and 411 of them were done by reoffenders. And so it's a number that we'd like to see decrease, and by working together with Peoria County and Peoria Police Department, I think we've made some dents in that
now,
recently.
You both have programs to deal with that. Why don't you tell us what's going on at the county level?
Yeah, actually, we just had a graduation yesterday of one of our reentry classes, and we started this last October was our first reentry class that graduated, and up to date, we've graduated 151 individuals from October until August of this year.
And who are these? Who are the folks that are graduating?
These are detainees at the jail, and what we've done is linked up with Jobs Partnership Program. So this is a faith-based group that comes inside our facility, and we have a 7-week curriculum. It's not an easy curriculum either. It's we started this group with 32 individuals, and we graduated 15.
Wow!
So
this is a dropout rate.
Absolutely. Yeah, by design, it's no different if you go into the workforce, and that's how we wanted to build this program, where it's not a luxury to go down to class maybe once every 2 days. No, it's like a job. You're expected to be there every day. So if you had an unexcused absence from the program class, we're going to dismiss you from the class as well.
Right.
It's that real life experience.
Right.
But the population, obviously we have different classifications of detainees at the jail. We really focus on those individuals that will be reentering our community. They might be going to DOC, but we know with their charges and their institutional history that eventually, within a 2-year window, they will be returning to our community. And the focus is, it's called Jobs Partnership. It's to address the socioeconomic factors once they return to society. Everyone needs a job. There's different causations to crime, and I've been on this platform where I attack the causation of crime, and the largest one is employment and addressing the socioeconomic factors. There's a lot of people that ended up in jail due to survival crimes. These are your retail thefts, sometimes your burglaries, different property-related crimes that they'll commit just to survive.
To get by, to eat food or
Correct.
Get whatever they need.
So the goal is to get these people to become productive members of our community, find them employment, so they're no longer a drain on the community, but instead they're buying these houses. We have so many houses down in 61605. Other zip codes are affected as well. Now they're paying property taxes. They're buying vehicles. They're adding to our economy, not draining from it.
And they've got confidence. They feel like, I belong here instead of being on the outside all the time.
It was pretty neat. And these graduations are very special to me because some of these, and it's all different demographics, I mean, from ages to race and gender. We do male and females. Primarily, it's males, but we have 60-year-old men and 19-year-old men graduating from these programs. Wow. And sometimes, and you could see the look in their eyes, this is the first time in their life where, A, they received a certificate of completion, and B, you have a group from our community standing up and saying, we're proud of you. There's a sense of self-worth.
Sure.
And that helps a person's to restore their dignity, to get back in the workforce. I want to do right this time.
Well, Aretha Franklin just passed, but we know the importance of respect.
Absolutely.
And that's what these folks got.
Absolutely.
You have something similar, Ron, at your place.
Yeah, we try to complement what Brian's done in the county jail, and that's by providing that ongoing support system for reentry individuals coming out of county jails or state and federal prisons. So what we do is we have the same kind of idealism that Brian is speaking of, is that everyone needs a job. And so we go a step further by working on work ethics and soft skills, but also changing life's idealisms.
What's the attitude? I mean, maybe this is a generalization, and maybe it varies with each individual, but do the folks that come in initially, are they downtrodden? I mean, do they feel like I can't get a job, or is it a matter of they just don't know how to get a job?
For the most part, individuals that come into our agency are having trouble finding a job because of their background. They either have some felony convictions or some major misdemeanors that
it washes them out every time. That
employers are kind of shy to bring them in. So we try to work with the employers more intensively as far as providing a support system for the employers also by bonding programs and of course tax incentives, and then case management that we provide with the individual being in the reentry program for 18
In other words, someone is taking, there's oversight for this individual. He's not just wandering around.
It's where the employer doesn't necessarily have to worry about lateness, tardiness, not showing up, because we also provide transportation to all of our workers who
and you said that's becoming a bit of a challenge.
That's always been a challenge, transporting individuals to work, finding the vehicles and drivers, so on and so forth. It's a continued challenge. But it's a necessity, because the unfortunate thing in 61605, 03, and 04 is that a lot of low-income individuals for the first time have been able to go to work in employers like Morton, Illinois, or up on University Street, up in the Warehouse District, up in there, and even as far as DeBartonville, without worrying about transportation, because buses don't start till 6 in the morning. They end at 12 at night. First and second shift starts at 5 in the morning or ends at 2:30 in the morning. So getting to and from work has always been a problem. Well, to alleviate that, we started transporting individuals to and from work every day, and it's
huge.
It's given a lot of people first-time opportunities to even have a job.
But that puts the onus on you guys to have vans and cars or whatever it is that you're using, and drivers and things of that sort. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
Part of my job as sheriff is educating the community. There's so many times I go out and there's this belief, well, these individuals are lazy. That's why they're not working. They don't understand all these roadblocks. When you walk out of jail, just getting an ID is a big deal. Imagine if a tornado ripped through your house and you didn't have all the proof of identification what's necessary to get a state ID. I'm not just talking a driver's license, just a state ID, which is necessary once you start doing the tax papers for your job. They can get through the application process, and it's time to get that ID. Then here's another roadblock. But I applaud Ron what he's doing with the transportation, because we've identified that as being just a huge roadblock. We are finding jobs. There are jobs out there. I go out every week, and I'm talking to employers to take a chance on hiring offenders. And we're getting a lot of good feedback, and we'll go more into what they've told me, what they want us to train them in the jail. But the problem is you're dealing with a lot of individuals that don't have they have zero income, so they, even if they can get a driver's license, they don't have the resources to purchase a car or even maintain it or insure it. Now they have to rely on public transportation, and a lot of these jobs, there's mandated overtime. They get called in early. If you're riding the bus route, that's not an option.
No.
And you've got to rely on family, friends, or you're using a lot of your paycheck for Uber or a cab.
Right.
And sometimes it's defeating, and it's discouraging to them. So by the time they stop before they earn enough money to purchase a vehicle. So that's what, and Ron hit the nail on the head by saying case management, just having that support team and having that advocate for these men and women when they're in our community, because there's going to be rough days, and we know that.
What do both of you hear from employers about the folks that have had problems in the past with the law? What do they want to see you guys do in the way of preparation?
Well, I'll start, and I think Ron will probably say the same thing. He mentioned soft skills before. I would love to bring our trades in and start teaching vocations, but a jail is a lot different than a prison. Someone can go down for a scheduled conference at the courthouse, and they're going to plea out. Next thing you know, they're out on probationary status, or they're going to DOC. So it's really hard to invest in long-term programs.
Right.
So we concentrate on soft skills, and that's what the employers, at least the local employers, told us to concentrate on, these soft skills. Soft skills, time management, anger management, accountability, things like that. We're dealing with people, and I'm not trying to be derogatory, but they grew up in an atmosphere where time management wasn't of any importance. They come from families that don't have a lot of jobs, so there's a lot of free time, and you get up when you get up. And even if you get a job, I'll go in on Wednesday. I don't feel like working Thursday, Friday.
Right.
It's changing that whole mindset that, no, there's accountability, and for you to step up and to make this work, you have to be accountable. So these are the teachings that we're doing at the jail, and I think Ron can speak on what he's doing.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues that employers are, when I first meet with them, that their biggest concern is, how's the work ethic of an individual? Are they going to show up on time every day? Are they going to make it to work every day? Are they going to give me excuses why they got to leave early or call in sick? And it's a huge concern for employers, because at the end of the day, the employer's train of thought is, I'm a business. I'm not a case manager. I'm not a welfare individual. I want individuals who come and produce my product so that I can put it on the market and I can make a profit. And so they don't want to deal with the extra baggage, and they don't want to have to deal with the extra baggage. And so employers are looking for agencies or people, middlemen, so to speak, to come in and guarantee that if you're going to bring this employee in for me, and we really appreciate it, I want to be able to be secured in knowing that he's going to show up every day. Right. So it's the soft skills that are a huge issue. And it's not just a huge issue for employers, it's a huge issue for us as a community. Peoria tends to lack very heavily on work ethics. We have a lot of people calling in sick. If you look at the Department of Labor statistics here, for Peoria County, there's over something like 22% of all employers are reporting an 80% increase in tardiness, lateness, so on and so forth, which costs millions and millions, if not billions of dollars. And it's the decrease in work ethics that we see at a decline. And what we try to do is we try to bring it back up to what it needs to be. And it's not an easy road to do that either.
No. What lies ahead in this sort of effort? Continue to have classes, continue to work with employers, just keep grinding out that message.
Yesterday's graduation, we had different employers showing up, and actually these recruiters were talking to the detainees while they're still in custody. They're leaving their business information, saying, once you get out, come see me. One of our employers was from the Bloomington area. And it was more of an industry-type manufacturing job, but they need people. And if you have nothing here, you have nothing moving to Bloomington normal either. So
Right.
you're under the same circumstances. So this is an option if they're willing to move to the Bloomington normal area to find employment. So the opportunities are there. The employers, they have to understand there's risk in any hire.
Sure.
I have risk in every hire that I make. But for any industry or employer, you've got to, like Ron said, you got to address that risk and justify it. I say as sheriff, this doesn't only help the individual who has offended and returned into the community. This potentially will help future generations as well. There's something about self-worth and being able to bring home a paycheck and paying for your own house. That's dignity, it's pride, and it's these individuals whose children that's going to benefit the most. These are individuals that's going to be more involved in their kids' lives. They're going to have more structure in their whole environment, and their children is going to be our next sheriff, our next doctors, lawyers. That's where I'm going to see. Hopefully, that's my hopes that that's what we're going to see in these following generations. But the employers yesterday, I'm not going to name them all off, but we're getting more of them because the word's out and there is a lot of jobs out there. But the key is, and I also advocate, we have to have a living wage too.
Yeah.
It's self-defeating. When I was a detective, I worked a lot of narcotics cases and talking to these young kids, well, why don't you just work at McDonald's, do your 40 hours? He goes, well, I can move this backpack from building A to across town to building B, and this is what I get paid. That's done in 20 minutes. You can't compete with that.
Yeah. Easy money.
It's changing that mindset.
Right. Ron, how about you? How long have you been at Helping Hand?
4 years.
You always say that too. Time flies when you're having a good time.
4 years, and to echo what he says, it is a common denominator of livable wage versus non-livable wage. And when you have clients who come in from a history with a background of hustling most of their life, it is much simpler to carry a backpack from point A to point B and make that $2,000-3,000 rather than working at a McDonald's for an entire month and get half of that $2,000.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult approach when it comes to an individual who wants to change their life. You got to be able to provide them with a support system that enables them to change their life. Not handouts, not giveaways, but an approach system that says, here's the tools that you need to become successful. Well, the tools that we need to provide them are livable wage salaries and something they can take pride in, and a work ethic they can take pride in, and of course a budget that they can formulate and keep on track with, and a savings and checking account that they can live with, and daycare for their kids, and a house that they can live in that doesn't have leaking roofs and toilets that don't work, so on and so forth. These factors come into play. So there's a whole brand of economic issues that come in play for an individual if he really wants to make a change in life. We have to play our part as a community to provide those issues.
And on that note, we won't mention the employer unless you want to, but you were saying earlier that one of the roadblocks for people you've placed at a job was credit rating, bad credit. And you know, that seems like, well, of course they have bad credit because they haven't had a job, and yet the employer is saying, yeah, but we need to have a credit rating up, and so that's going to preclude them from working.
That's a hard battle right there on credit, because if you're talking about serving individuals with low income and trying to
who have never used credit, really, just cash world.
Credit is the number one issue that most people will, that you don't think should be an issue with employment, that seems to be an issue with some employers. Locally, so
that needs to be dealt with too.
We've introduced, just for that reason, financial literacy into our jobs partnership program. We have counselors, and we're running these credit reports to see where they're at. These men and women have no idea. Some are pleasantly surprised. They didn't realize that they have established some credit, but that's usually that's the outliers of the room. It's usually the other way. But in addition to that, just that competency in dealing with financials, how to manage a household, how to budget. This is all core components of what we're teaching in-house. And we are blessed with the volunteers from our community that we have. I mean, these, for whatever reason, it seems if you retire and you're an architect, you go into jobs partnership.
Yeah.
But we have doctors, we have relationships with OSF and Caterpillar, who will bring in some professional counselors from the business world to kind of talk about financial literacy and make them understand this is how it's 101. We're talking some basics, and that's expected. But it's a concept and this credit rating to kind of know where you're at, and this is where we need to be. And we got long-term goals. We want everyone to walk away with a long-term goal, but we know we have to set these small little baby steps and reach these little achievements first by getting your credit back in order. You're going to have to save X amount of dollars and pay off this to get to where you need, and that's going to open the door for these jobs or potentially these scholarships or things like that. So, got a long ways to go, but we're getting there.
Now, both of you, on a daily basis, are dealing with adults that are at that problem, that point. What about? And again, I'm not asking you to do more than your plate is full. But what about taking some of that teaching, the financial literacy, and those other components about responsibility down to the school level? Because I mean, obviously, both of you see that as from whence they come. Yeah. Again, I'm not asking you. You're already overtaxed as it is, but where does that fit into this?
And that's a preventative maintenance issue that is high on everybody's agenda, including the Sheriff's Department, I'm sure. And we do have a youth program where our counselors go into local high schools and recruit individuals young men and women who need jobs to support themselves, and we put them in classes and teach them literacy and get them introduced to budgets. The ELITE program is one of them programs also here in Peoria County that has an intense
Carl Cannon in here with Sherry Cannon. Yeah.
They have an intense program in the local schools. We're not that intense. We're more in the employment factor of getting them jobs and then teaching them work ethics and accountability for work. But I wish we could go in depth, but like you said, there's only so many roads.
You've got immediate problems.
I've said this too many times. I call it the riddle. This is the riddle I've been trying to figure out. We can provide the causations of crime, in my opinion. We have treatable mental illness, substance abuse disorders, and addressing the socioeconomic factors, poverty. Those are the big three. And we now have established programs and services inside our jails and our prisons to address these, to hopefully reduce recidivism. And I can speak for Peoria County Jail, and this isn't the only reason, but it is one of my bragging rights. I was jail superintendent before sheriff. In 2010, 2011, almost the beginning of 2013, the ADP of the Peoria County Jail, average daily population, averaged right between 500 and 600 detainees every day. Cost of incarceration's $80 a day per person, according to our last cost study. For the last 3 years, we've been right around the 340 mark. This year, we've been below 300. We're averaging right around 270 for an annual basis. That's cut that jail population by half. So look at the collateral savings that we have there. It's a lot of zeros at the end of that check. But the riddle is, why do we have to wait until someone commits a crime, becomes incarcerated, convicted or unconvicted, to provide these services and programs to get their life back in order? The riddle is, we should be doing this much sooner. Prevention costs far less than incarceration. It is billions of dollars we spent in this nation for incarceration. Some will argue it's almost $1 trillion a year if you look at all the collateral costs associated to one person going to prison. It blows my mind, and it's reactive. We have to, as a community, work together and be very proactive and put in these programs. And we have a lot of programs out there, but there's a lot of redundancy too. And I'd rather us work as a community, put these programs together as a team, and have this structured in the right way where we can get these kids credentialed. Credentialing is the key. Not everyone needs a master's degree.
Right.
Some vocation is the way to go. We have to work, identify these individuals, get them excited about a trade or journalism or policing.
Don't send them there. But no, that's a great idea. Ron?
Brian calls it a riddle. I call it a quagmire.
A quagmire?
A quagmire, yeah. and that is this. You have two battlefronts. One is the current economic status, and what it is, and the other one is preventative maintenance. Mm-hmm. How do you change the current economic status? And the only way you can change it is to do preventative maintenance. What we do today will affect us 2 years from now or 3 years from now. But unfortunately, we as a community and as the nation, we're so accustomed to the Band-Aid approach method. When it happens, pay the costs, take care of it. Well, the cost is extremely high now. It's $130,000 to incarcerate a reoffender for 3 years more. Where it cost us $5,862 to get a client into the door, into a job, change of life.
These are your figures.
These are our numbers. Where our cost is only $5,862 to help an individual change their life around and to become a productive citizen. And during that cost, the savings that we did, and I think I spoke on this the last time, our clients alone that are working currently have put over $9 million back into the economy the right way.
Right.
Paying sales tax, paying their income tax, purchasing power, so on and so forth. And so when you have these clients who are working and turning the reversal around, then it shows you that it works. You can save money. You can save money on incarceration costs, jail time, so on and so forth.
Ron, you were saying earlier on that note that this community, and you've worked in this community now a few years, and see the groups that are out there. The sheriff noted there are a lot of groups out there, a lot of programs, but there's you call it people in silos.
Yeah.
In other words, and I'm sure this is true of every community, but I think Peoria is a very productive, giving community, but we tend to be sometimes, as everyone is, that's my area. We're over. There's competition with another group, association. You run into that.
Yeah, you run into it all the time.
Yeah, and you're always going to. It's probably human nature in one part.
And even when it comes to giving, we work in silos. When we work when it comes to donating and our funding and so on and so forth, we work in silos. But let me clarify that so that there's no misconception that I'm trying to chastise anybody. And that is this: it's much easier for us to say, I helped a homeless individual today, or I donated to a homeless agency to get homes for people, or I helped a disabled child. It's just so easy for us to pull money out of our pocket and help that because it's a great cause.
Right.
And we are a giving community, and we want to do that. But for some reason, there is no reason. For the reasons that they are, we tend to make it much harder for us to say out of our mouth, I helped a convicted felon change his life today. It's a very tough thing to say. It's not something you really want to brag to your neighbors or your friends or to your businesses that get involved. It's much easier to say I
There's
helped
a stigma
a local
there.
Hospital. Yeah. And but the thing is that if you were to change someone's life around from crime, the economic savings that you would have in this community, we wouldn't be talking about City Council having problems with budget. We wouldn't be talking about Peoria Council having problems with budget. We're talking billions and billions of dollars, not just on incarceration, but victimization, counseling for victims. We're talking about property damage. We're talking about anything from replacing new cars to all these things. If you look at the statistics, you'll see how many cars were stolen in the month of 2017, or in the year 2017, and the number is staggering compared to Peoria being a little city that it is.
I've got a number that'll blow your mind. And 2 years ago, we started a criminal justice behavior health review committee, and we have a lot of key stakeholders at this table: the Sheriff's Office, Peoria City Police Department, AMT, OSF, Unity Point. We got the two hospitals sitting together at the same table because they see this as a problem too. And we're looking at total. What we did is by using high utilizers in each system, whether it be hospital admissions, transports, human service centers involved as well, mental health encounters, or jailings. And we developed who in our community is touching each of these entities the most. We whittle it down to our top 100. We whittle it down even further to our top 19 individuals in our community. In 1 year, the aggregate cost for those 19 individuals was over $3 million.
1 year.
1 year, 19 people, $3 million. It was over. It was about 3.2 actually.
Wow.
That blows my mind, and that's why I appreciate so much what Ron does and these other people. He said, yes, there is a stigma to this, but I've said this too. My whole adult life, I've been either working police or corrections, and I've been around a lot of these individuals. I know them by first name. I know their kids now. And I'll say this, and I'll look right in that camera. 60% of the people in that jail, they are not bad people. They've made mistakes, and they're going to be accountable for those mistakes. But you have to understand a lot of times how these happen. It's because where you were born and the socioeconomic factors you inherited, it wasn't your fault. And if you look at it through those different lenses, and we invest more on helping these individuals getting their lives together, this community, like Ron said, we won't be having these city council meetings discussing what service we're cutting today.
Right.
These are individuals that's through what they're doing, which is wrong, is costing us at dire levels, and to fix that. And yesterday, when I had these graduations, these are some of the most proud moments of my life. And to see the look in their eyes. And I made a promise to them, as long as they continued on this path, I'll continue to advocate. I had a mentor when I was growing up, or I could easily be sitting in that uniform next to him. So I allow them to use me as a reference on their resumes, so I can have that talk with the employer when they call and explain, here's this individual, this is what we've put them through, this is their potential, but here's some of the drawbacks too, and I had to be upfront with them. And there's some workplace harassment issues that sometimes happen. It's not them, it's they're getting teased or by other coworkers. It's that convict joke or the felon joke, and it's really easy for them to go back to their old lifestyle where I'm going to fight this guy or I'm going to blow up. And so we're trying to control the mindset too. But this is the reality of this, and it's part of our job as a community. And thank you for allowing us to do this today. It's to educate the community that we all need to be involved in this.
Well, I think and Ron, you've been here before, and the sheriff has made the case. It just needs to be said over and over and over again, because you're always going to be reaching people that, as you say, are just not attuned to, well, you're a criminal, you deserve to be put away, and that's it.
I think
case closed.
I think a lot of questions that are on a lot of people's mind is, does it work? And and that's a question that
can you reform them?
Can you reform an individual, and can you stop an individual from reoffending? And is it a waste of time? And is it something that we're just talking about, and there's really no cure? It's almost like we're thinking about things that aren't curable.
Right.
But, we thought polio wasn't curable at one point in time. But just to point out a fact, our recidivism rate at Helping Hand Resource Center is 13%. And that's all we deal with.
So what does that mean? 13% of what?
Well, the national rate for recidivism is 67%. 67% of all people released from prison are going back to prison within 3 years.
Okay.
So if you have 100 people, 67 of them are going back to prison within 3 years.
But the folks in your program,
rate is only 13% are going back within 3 years.
So it's working.
It works.
Yeah.
It's not working. It works.
It works.
It's a proven fact. Our data for over the last 4 years has shown that it does work. No, we can't reach everyone, and no, we can't change anyone. But if we can change one person, the economic impact has already been made.
Right.
Because that person won't reoffend again. And if we're doing 216 of them, the cost factor on that, and that would go, if they were to reoffend, is millions and millions of dollars, where the cost factor for us, where our budget's only like
what about your budget, your agency? How solvent are you?
We're about as solvent as silly putty. To be honest with you, it's always a challenge.
Okay.
Funding is always a challenge. One of the things is, I'll just put another staggering number to you. Last year alone, and for the last 5 years, we spent over $27 million on homelessness here in Peoria County, providing shelters and providing
collectively
through all the agencies that deal with homelessness. $27 million. The amount of money that's been put towards reentry is less than $100,000 here in Peoria County. And that type of funding is just unacceptable to make changes.
I've heard you say at the council meeting, when they have the public address part, that the recidivism that both of you have addressed is an issue that would make a huge difference if it was, if you cut into it.
The federal government has a reentry grant that they put out every year, and it's only for 7 particular agencies. And there's 7 openings.
You mean in the country?
In the entire country.
Oh.
So if you get a federal grant for reentry, you're a blessed agency. And they're trying to promote collaborism so the money goes around more and helps out more in the community. But the federal government only has allotted 7 positions for private reentry programs.
And we're in the running this year.
Oh, good. Yeah. Very good.
Fingers crossed. We've applied 3 years now, and you learn for each time you enter. Yeah. Grants now, especially DOJ grants or BOJ, they're regional. You can't go as a single entity looking for a grant. So that's why we created these behavioral health groups, all these different entities, and working together. I'm really excited because what that's going to allow us to do if we receive this grant funding, and reentry, it's more than just jobs. What I envision, let's go to a case management system post-discharge. We need to sit there at the last step before someone goes back into the community. Homelessness. You'd be amazed how many people that leave 301 Maxwell Road that does not have a bed to sleep in. And the definition of homeless is debatable. I mean, there's people that shop from friend to friend's house. They are homeless.
Right.
Because they have a couch for 2 weeks. They might not have it the next week.
Right.
It's keeping individuals, continuity of care. That's another word I like to use. Continuity is keeping them on their, if they have a mental illness or they need help, medical too, to keep them on their medications. Just don't stop keeping them healthy while they're in custody. Schedule that next appointment. If they need addiction counseling, get them scheduled. So you're taking that time out before we're just kicking them out the door. It's assembly line criminal justice system. That's what I've known my whole career. So when I had an opportunity last year when I became sheriff, this became a priority because that's something the old way of doing business does not work.
Right. It
doesn't work. The United States has the most people in prisons. The percentage is like I said, we're talking, I believe it's more of $1 trillion a year industry. This change in trying to break that cycle, and that is our goal. And thankfully, we have community partners like Helping Hand, Jobs Partnership, and we work hand in hand with the Elite program too, Carl's reentry program, which is tougher than ours. It's when you're back in the world and you're in the community versus being incarcerated. Our success rate is going to be a lot higher than what Carl has in his program because you don't have those outside influences. Right. You don't have the homelessness. You don't have I'm hungry. We have a captive audience at the jail. But literally. And that plays in our favor. But it's an aha moment. We've had so many different aha moments. These captive moments, the same thing when the Affordable Care Act went through with Medicaid enrollment. It was when I was running the jail, it's like, why aren't we getting these individuals enrolled in the Medicaid? Right. So when they do leave the jail, they can continue their medication. So hopefully they won't have a psychotic episode and reoffend. They can be in the counseling. And we started that in 2013, and we've enrolled a lot of individuals in the Medicaid, and it helps, and especially with addictions going on now.
Well, we've got to wrap this up. We've had 2 people here who are involved so heavily: Ron Valle at Helping Hand Resource Center in Peoria, and of course Peoria County Sheriff Brian Asbell, and I want to thank both of you because I think this is an ongoing issue. We want to have you both come back. Ron, this is not your first time anyway, but certainly you, Sheriff, would love to have you, on all the issues, and appreciate your input on this because we need more. We need to tell the folks about this. Thank you.
Appreciate coming in.
All right. I want to thank Matt Dayhoff, been at the controls, gets it all out to you people. And this is Steve Tarter, and thanks again. This is Tarter Sauce.